Hello everyone. It's Tech Mode here, and today I'll show you how you can create a talking head frame for videos, and it looks something like this. So let's say you have your tutorial ongoing, and I'll just hit the preview window. So when you're actually doing your tutorials, you have your talking head over here. So if I just play this, we can actually see that talking head there. Now this talking head is actually just like this video I recorded. If I go back and I turn this off, if I turn off Fusion, you can actually see it's just a large video without a frame border around it. So if I go ahead and click here, you can see that border is back, and I've added some nice little color here. So if I jump to the Fusion tab, let me just stop this recording, and if I go to the Fusion tab, you can actually see the node setup I'm using over here. So let's quickly create a new project, and let's just recreate this entire scenario. It's actually fun and straightforward to do. Let's do that. So go over here, go to File. I'll click a new project. I'll call that Talking Head, and I'll hit Create. Just to have a blank project. And now that I have that blank project, I'll go to my edit page, go to the media pool, and import a talking head and then a part of the tutorial, just to show you how that works. So I'll click on the media pool, or I hit Ctrl-I to import, and I'll quickly go to my folder where I have my black magic camera clips, and I'll think of something to use. I think I'll use this Humble Bundle. So this is the talking head, and this is the main clip. So I'll just drag both of them and hit open, and I'll just click change here. So I have both of these selected. I'll quickly optimize this so that everything is not really slow. So I'll click the gear icon, and I'll set my timeline resolution to 1280 by 720 HD, and the monitor the same thing, 1280 by 720 HD. Now I know these are a bit, so this is 700 megabytes, I guess. So I'll just optimize both of them and create proxy. So I'll right click, go to proxy media, and say generate proxy media. Before I do that, I quickly want to set up, click the gear icon and go here to says the proxy media resolution. I'll set that to quarter, the media format, DNX HRLB, optimized media resolution to quarter, optimized media format to DNX HRLB, and our render cache format to DNX HRLB. Just makes everything nice and compressed. I'll hit save. Then I can now right click on these two and go to proxy media and say generate proxy media. So this says proxy media failed to generate for the following files, no problem. So what I'll quickly do is to right click and create a new timeline using selected clips and hit create. This will just bring in our video. So I have this one here, and then this is the tutorial that goes after that. So what I want to do is to place this, put this on the top, and then put this underneath, and I'll drag this audio so that it can be synchronized with this as well. So now we can see we have this at the top, and if I hit D to disable that and hit D to enable it, we can actually see this. So this is my video clip. So I'm actually talking, and I actually want this to have a little outline around it. So the first thing I'll do is, once I can just select the clip, right? So I'm not using the clip at the bottom. I'll just hit D to disable that, and I'm not using the audio as well. I'll just mute both audio channels, and this really helps to kind of optimize your program. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to click on the Humble Bundle, right click, and say open in the Fusion page. So now this is going to open up this clip in the Fusion page, and we can easily see that we have a media in, which is this media in. I'll just zoom in here, holding Control and drag. So we have our media in and we have media out. By the way, the reason why we're seeing this is because I've turned on, to enable the preview So if I go to show tile pictures, so it's just showing the information I have on the tile. Sometimes it helps prevent confusion. So cool. So now we have that. What can we do? How can we add, a little border around this? The first thing to do is to create a mask. And to do that, I'll just click on here where it says the rectangle. I'll click the rectangle and I'll drag this output into the input of our media in. And automatically what that does is to create a nice little frame around this. Now, if I go back to the timeline and I bring back by pressing D on our main tutorial window, you can see we have a square frame. What I can do from here is just move this around. So I can go over to the inspector, click on the inspector. By the way, if your view is different, you can go to workspace and say reset UI layout, and this should give you this view. So but I like using a single viewer mode, and I'll just disable the media pool so we can see what I actually have going on here. And with that, I can click on the inspector, and what I'll do is to move this clip to the right side and the bottom. So here on the position X, I'll just drag that here just to the right side, and I'll just use the Y position to drag this down to the bottom. If I hit P to preview, you can see it's just showing over here, and if I play this, you can actually see, we have a talking head video there with an outline. You can leave it like this if you don't want to do anything extra, but what I can do is to improve this, add a nice little frame, add some color, or add some gradient. Let's see how we can do that. So the first way to improve this is, and we can always change the position, see where we are. First way to improve this is to basically move this over here, and we can add some, just drag this over here, and we can add the corner radius, just make this look a bit, have some rounded corners along the edge. That's really a nice gradient. And what we also want to do is to create a nice little shape behind this one with some color. And to do that, we'll bring in a background node. So I'll click on the background node. This is the background node. If we press the 1 key on our keyboard, this is the output we're seeing. We're just seeing an output of the background node. And what I want to do is to change this from solid color to a gradient. And I'll just select two colors that really work together. So we can use a maybe complementary color format, or we'll just click this. Each of these, you can actually see it's changing. So I'll click on this and click on the color wheel and pick a nice little warm color, maybe this golden color like that. Oops, I need to actually click on that and hit OK. And then I'll go towards the end and I'll pick a nice little cool color. Let's take this one here. So something going from warm to cool. I think this is totally fine. So how do we do this? We can combine this using a merge node. So I'll go over here. And the cool thing is we need to also use the same information here. So if I can take this rectangle, hit Ctrl C and V just to paste it. I can hold Shift to drag that. And I can pass this into our background. So now it's the same size as, is the same size as our media file, right? So because it's using the same mask. So let's create a merge node. So I'll click on the merge node, and this is going to be our background node. So I want the gradient to be at the back. So I'll pass that into the background node. So I'll take the output of the background and place that here. Now next, I want the media out to be the foreground, basically on top of it. So I'll take the output and drag this and place this on top, like so. And I'll take the output and place the output into the media out node. And we're not really seeing any difference. So I'll click the rectangle node and try to just move it around, and we can actually see it's behind this. So what we can do now is just simply scale this. We can increase the width a little bit like that and increase the height just a little bit. Now if we go back, we can actually see we have, now hit the preview, we have a nice little talking head with an outline. So we can also add a slight little background to this as an additional effect, and let's see how we can do that. So I'll hit escape again, and go back to Fusion. And now what we actually have here, let's see what we have. So I'll just drag this to the top and get rid of the inspector. So I'll just drag this over the top so that we can see what we're doing here. So we have a background node, and then we have a rectangle node. So what I want to do is to create another background node with a dark color that's going to be behind this background node. Sounds confusing, but let's go ahead and do this. So I'll click on the background node and I'll hit 1 so I can see the output. So that's what we're seeing at the top here. So what we want to do is to add a merge node, and we want this to be at the bottom. So what we'll do is just here where I have that merge, this is going to be our background. So I'll drag the background 2 node, slot that into background, take the output of our gradient, place that at the top, and I'll take the output and place that underneath the merge node. Now we can actually see something going on here. Everything is black. We don't want that. We just want to mask that area. So I'll take this, and I believe I can hold Control. So I can just hit Control C and V, and I'll hold Shift and just drag that out like so. So you click that, hold Shift, so we can just pull that out, and then we'll connect that into the background input. And now you can see we have the same size. You don't have to do it like that. You can always click on this and copy the properties, but since we have one mask that has that same property, that's it. And the next thing we just need to do is to move this mask. One quick way to do that is to select the rectangle and hit the transform node. And sometimes this disables how that works. So we'll just go ahead and click that. And now all we can do is just drag this to the side, and you can see we have a little outline here, like so. So now that we have that outline, we can just quickly preview that. So I'll go back to edit mode and hit P, and we can actually see that outline here. It's a bit too strong. So what we can do is to go back to Fusion, and on this background node, if we open up the inspector, and I'll just make this quite large so we can see this, and I'll drag this towards the bottom here at the background, we can dial down the color first. So here we can just push this down to something a bit bright, or we can even make it, kind of cool. And what we can also do is to dial down the alpha so that we have something a bit transparent. So I'll just dial this down a bit. So you can see the alpha is just cooling this off a bit like that, and here you have it. So we have a nice little shadow effect. Excuse me. We have a nice little shadow effect, and we can see it here. And the cool thing is we can always move this around anywhere we want, and we can just scale it down or make it bigger or smaller directly here. And there you have it. And the cool thing is you can save this as a macro. Now, a macro is a much slightly complicated concept, but honestly, it's not. All we need to do is to go over here if we wanted to make this a macro, and I'll just drag this here and place this like that, and just zoom out a little bit. So I'll select everything we have here, excluding the media out. And what I'll do is to right click and go to macro and say create macro, right? And if I hit create macro, I'll just call this, what do we call this? Hulking underscore head underscore outline, like so. And now that we've created that, we can actually see all our outputs here. It's a good idea to name our nodes to understand what each one is doing so that we can create a proper mask, a proper macro that's going to be easily readable. So I don't want this to be complex. I just want to make it very simple. I'll stop the tutorial from here. If you do want to check out the macro tutorial, I'll be creating a separate tutorial from this one using the macro. So thank you very much for watching. But if you just want to use this as a macro, we can just, close this and save changes to the macro tool. Yes. And we'll just call that talking head outline and save this. And what we can do is if we delete everything here, so let's just delete this. So now we don't have any of that in our talking head videos. We don't have anything here because we just cleared that out. Just go back here. And we could just bring everything back. We can always right click and go to the add tool, and where we have macros, we can look at talking head outline and we can actually see this macro. This is a poorly set up macro because we don't have access to the inputs we need to actually properly run this macro. But if we do something like this, disable this and go over here and drag this and slot this in, we can actually see we have the same information here. Again, this is a very poor way to set up a macro because the idea of using a macro is to be able to basically edit. So we can edit a macro once we've created that. We can right click and go to edit macros and click on edit talking head, and we can select some outputs we want to be available when we create this. So that's going to be it for this talking head video. See you guys in the next one.